Good evening, everyone. Let's open up tonight's Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting. It is now 6:30 p.m. and tonight is April 7th, Monday night. We have 5 of 7 commissioners. Absence is Commissioner Henrichs and Commissioner McDonald. Thank you. That's the call to order. That's the roll call and certification of quorum. The next item is introduction of agenda and format of hearing. Ms. Katja, if you will take that away, please.
Thank you, Chair. First, we're going to have a call to order, followed by a staff report, then an applicant presentation, then the public comments in support or opposition will be opened. Please state your name and address for the record, and please be brief and to the point within a 3-minute time frame. Afterwards, the commission and staff will have a discussion, and the commission will vote to recommend approval as presented, approval with conditions, denial of the request, or to table the item. City Council's consideration of tonight's zoning case will be on the Monday, April 28th, 2025 meeting. Moving on to consent agenda, tonight we have an excused absences and the minutes. And on new business tonight, we have a plat variance alongside a preliminary plat, a final plat, and a zone change request. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That brings us now to the consent agenda. And I do have one question regarding the consent agenda. If I needed to add a sentence to the approval of the minutes, I'd hate to remove that unless, okay, I got the nod. Does anyone wish to remove any item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, a motion and a second, and then we'll go for approval.
Motion, Commissioner Eccles.
Second, Eisenberg.
All right, no further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes unanimously 5-0. That moves us into items removed from the consent agenda, and there are none. So we will now move to new business. The first item being consideration and possible action, VAP 2025-0083, and this is a variances for the minimum lot frontage and their creation of a flag lot and double frontage lot. This is a request by Philip Trong, Cobb Finley and Associates, applicant on behalf of Harmony Public Schools, represented by Niet Bayham, owner, for approval of a variance permitted in section 3.1.1.6 F, and that's F like Frank, of the Unified Development Code and ordinance number 2000-T from section 2.4.4.5 C1 to reduce the minimum lot width requirement in the general business district, section 2.6.1.1 B2 to allow for the creation of a flag lot, and section 3.2.14.2 E to allow for creation of a double frontage lot on 34.9329 acres of land, general location being the north of Broadway, west of Roy Road, and east of Reed Boulevard in Pearland, Texas. How about a motion for approval and a second, and then we'll get staff report.
Motion to approve. Second.
Thank you, Chair. Patrick Bauer, Planner 2, will be providing the staff report on this item.
Thank you, Katja. Good evening, Chair and members of the Commission. As you noticed, just before we get started, this request and the one after it happen to have the same address because they're related, but the variance has to come before the preliminary plat can actually come. So as mentioned, there is a number of variances for the site for the plat. It relates to the minimum lot width in the general business district, creation of a flag lot, and the creation of a double frontage lot. And specifically looking at the minimum lot width for those proposed lots, the required lot width within the general business district is 150 feet. The proposed lot width for the 2 lots, which will be shown in later slides, is 143.44 feet for lot 1 and 79.07 feet for Lot 2. And as you'll notice in the proposed use, it states that Lot 1 is to be an existing single-family residence, and the proposed school is to be on Lot 2. And as you can notice, the owner of the parcel is Harmony Public Schools, so it's for creation of their school. And so here we get a look at the subject property and the zonings. To the south of the property, the most south of it is Broadway Street. The east side, it's bounded by Roy Road. And then on the west side is Reed Boulevard, and it's kind of split in half with kind of more of it being general commercial zoning, but then that western half being the general business zoning district. And so in your right-hand side of the screen, this is the proposed plat for the lot, and you'll notice a larger portion is that Lot 2, and then the smaller portion, which you can also see on the right-hand side of your screen, is the Lot 1, which encompasses an existing single-family residence. And so kind of just going through those variances again, that first variance was to the minimum lot width requirement, and that single-family residence is the one that has the 143.44 feet of lot width along Reed Boulevard. And then the proposed school lot, which is Lot 2, has that 79.07 feet for the lot width. And it should be also recognized that it's kind of blocking it, but there is an access easement that is proposed within Lot 2 to allow for that Lot 1 existing single-family residence to utilize the driveway as they have in the previous as well. And then going to the other two requests, first off is the flag lot. So as you'll notice, that portion along Reed Boulevard that the Lot 2 gets access through, that's a flag portion, so it's the creation of a flag lot. And then additionally, the double frontage lot is needed because the site fronts on Roy Road, and then parallel to that is Reed Boulevard, so it'd be a double frontage lot. Just looking at some of the analysis, both lots do exceed the minimum lot area requirements for the general business and general commercial district, as well as the lot depth requirements. So the only thing they're requesting from the GB is that lot width requirement, and specifically along Reed Boulevard. And so the proposed frontages are adequate for the proposed and existing development of the site, and the approval of the variances will allow the lots to be platted in a configuration that supports the proposed development plan. And so staff recommends approval of the requested variances with the following conditions. Specifically, condition 1 is that access to the property along Roy Road is to be for emergency access only. Currently, the main entry will be through Reed Boulevard, and given the existing conditions of Roy Road, they may not be adequate to handle the anticipated traffic that a school may generate. So that's where condition 1 comes from. And then condition 2 is that the proposed school for the site shall adhere to the traffic impact analysis and the City of Pearland's traffic engineer regarding the flow of traffic for the school's parent pickup lines. And specifically, this relates to within the property kind of queuing for the parent pickup, as well as along Reed Boulevard at that intersection. How is traffic handled during those peak hours during the morning or afternoon? So that's where this condition comes from. And that concludes staff's report with the conditions.
Thank you, sir. Great report. That brings us to the applicant presentation portion. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to make a presentation? Okay. Since he wasn't on the mic, the applicant stated that he was here on behalf of the applicant, and he does not wish to make a presentation. So we'll move forward then in the agenda. And that is persons wishing to speak for or against this item. Are there any persons wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing no movement, we'll then move forward to the staff commission applicant discussions. Commissioners? All right.
Chair, before we do that, I just wanted to ask, and I understand number 3, Patrick, but my understanding was that there was some discussion as to whether there should be anything done not to stop parents from going into the emergency access, but sometimes parents have a tendency to park near the emergency access. Did we have ameliorative or mitigative traffic impact to try to stop people from parking at the emergency access on Roy Road that could cause a problem with that road and the traffic on it because of the condition of the road? And it's just not meant for parents to park there and pick up their kids. And that's something we sometimes experience later after school opens. Maybe not at this opening, but when the school expands, something like that can happen, and it can create traffic issues. Did we have a proposed recommendation on that? I know we talked about it. We weren't sure how to address it at the time, though.
Yeah, current TIA doesn't anticipate that, and it is not identified in TIA. But we have talked, and they are working to improve Roy Road, at least mid-and overlay of the Roy Road is anticipated. And based on our discussion, they, in the past, they already submitted infrastructure plan for Roy Road improvement too.
Do we know if there's a fence going along Roy Road that would not allow pedestrians to cut through to a different place?
It's
Kids to walk on the back
yeah, the
side of
plans
the
are
school
still
property.
preliminary, so, and they may be able to answer as well, but I believe from looking at preliminary plans, there's a reason it's emergency access, because I believe it will be gated, but they can answer that best.
Okay, I'm Michael Mazzola. I'm the civil engineer for the project. So yes, there will be a fence. The access will only be from Reed Road during the school time. That access will be closed off so that only emergency personnel can access the site. So
And I apologize if I'm being slow or misunderstanding.
Sure.
A gate along a driveway isn't always the same thing as a fence along the property line.
right,
And our experience is that children sometimes walk through yards, in
Sure.
this case, the schoolyard, to get to the edge of the
Sure.
roadway
There will be-
that a
there-
fence would protect or prohibit.
right. The school will work with the city to make sure that there is no access off of Roy Road. The staff will be informed to not allow any students to access Roy Road at all. It
Right.
will be an unsafe condition. 100% of the population of this school is drop off and pick up from parents. They will not allow students to just access the site by walking to the campus.
Okay.
That's not
So
in the plan.
These things, do you think, in your mind, as a design professional for the
Sure.
school, do you think that number 2 is addressing these things?
The TIA, yes, I believe so. And what I will say is, as we proceed through the design process, if the city has a recommendation to add a fence or a gate in a specific location, I don't believe that will be something that the school will have any issue with. Whatever, the city recommends, we'll probably work through.
Thank you for helping me better understand
Sure.
that. And thank you for your patience as I asked that question to try to solve future issues.
I do have a question.
Sir,
Is the applicant in agreement with these two recommendations for approval?
yes,
Therefore, I make a motion that we amend the the amendment to the staff's approval, with those being condition of the original motion.
Of that it was Commissioner Haskins who made the original motion.
Mr. Eccles can make the motion. It just takes 2 votes for us to get there. So, okay, is there a second to include staff conditions?
I'll second to include staff conditions and adding a third to comply with the fencing that the city recommends along Roy Road and along the property line.
Okay, completely get what you're saying and appreciate it. But first, I have to resolve Mr. Eccles' proposed, and then we can add a third condition.
Sure.
So I'm understanding you to have the second
Yes.
for the first 2.
Okay,
Yes.
to make it easier where we won't have to go through another, I will amend my amendment to the motion to encompass the fencing.
Okay, so it's a motion to amend for the variance request to have the 2 staff-related conditions and the third for the fencing. The motion was made by Mr. Eccles and the second by Mr. Haskins.
That's correct.
So if there's no further discussion, we'll vote on the amended motion first, and then we'll vote on the
Amended motion.
variances with all three. All right, so all those in favor of the amendment, please signify by raising your right hand. That measure passes 5-0. If there's no further discussion, we will then vote on the original motion itself, VAP 2025-0083. All
With
those
the
in
three
favor,
included amendments.
including the amendments that have already been approved. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure passes unanimously, 5-0. It's usually not this difficult. I'm lying today. All right, that brings us to item 2 under new business. And thank you, sir. Item 2 under new business, consideration and possible action, CPL 2025-0080, the preliminary plat of Harmony Schools, Pearland. This is the same parcel. A request by Philip Trong, Cobb, Finley, and Associates, applicant on behalf of Harmony Public Schools, represented by Niet Bayhan, owner, for approval of the preliminary plat of Harmony Schools, Pearland, creating 2 lots on 34.9329 acres of land located north of Broadway Street, west of Roy Road, and east of Reed Boulevard. General location being what I just said, north of Broadway, west of Roy Road, and east of Reed Boulevard, Pearland, Texas. How about a motion for approval in a second before we get started?
So moved. Second.
All right. Staff report, if there should be a short one, I guess.
Yes, so here's the preliminary plat. You just saw it. I mean, specifically, they're needing to do a preliminary and final plat because of some of the improvements to the infrastructure, such as the median. They're looking to do improvements to the median and Reed Boulevard, as well as there's potential that utilities may need to be extended. That's still being figured out, but the preliminary plat also allows for that to occur through the infrastructure permit, which would come in between the preliminary and final. And so again, here's lot 2 and lot 1 is to subdivide into this form, and for lot 2 to allow for the school use. And so staff recommends approval of the preliminary plat for the following reasons. The plat conforms to the criteria for approval of a preliminary plat, and the proposed plat will allow for the necessary infrastructure improvements to be constructed to support the proposed use on the property. And that concludes staff's report.
That brings us then to the applicant presentation. The applicant is here. Does he wish to present, or?
No, I do not.
Thank you, sir. All right, I'll go to persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against? Seeing no movement, we'll go to staff, commission, applicant discussion. Commissioners, anything? If I'm not mistaken, this is a forced main or a forced sewer that they have to tie into from a prior parcel up north. I remember that being an issue, but more from a monetary standpoint. Going to be resolved? Yes. Good enough. If there's nothing further, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Measure again passes 5-0. We're too easy tonight.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to item 3 under new business, and this is consideration and possible action, CPL 2025-0037. This is a final plat of Pearland Town Center Multifamily. This is a request by Lucy Magana, Windrose Land Services, applicant on behalf of CRP/Pelican Pearland Owners LP owner for approval of the final plat to replat lots 14, 15, and 16 of the Pearland Town Center Plan Unit Development into one lot on approximately 13.69 acres of land, the general location being south of Broadway Street, east of Kirby Drive, and west of Business Center Drive, southern part of the Pearland Town Center. Motion for approval in a second, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
With that, staff report, please.
Thank you. So the request before you is for a final plat of the Pearland Town Center multifamily. And if you'll remember, this lot came originally through zone change for a PD amendment to allow for a multifamily development. And now it's coming for the platting. And originally the preliminary plat was approved in September of 2024. And so proposed plat is to combine the Pearland Town Center lot into one lot from 3 to 1 to allow for that multifamily development. And here we get a look at the final plat for the property. And there have been no changes to the actual configuration of the lot since the preliminary plat. And so based on the approval criteria for a final plat, staff found that the request met all of the criteria and that it conformed to the preliminary plat. Therefore, staff recommends approval of the final plat as presented. And that concludes staff's report.
Thank you, sir. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to make a presentation? Seeing no movement or hearing none, we'll move forward then to persons wishing to speak for or against. Is there anyone here wishing to speak for or against this item? Seeing no movement again, we'll go to staff, commission, applicant discussion. Anyone? I'm seeing a bunch of heads nodding no. Just one thing for me, and quickly. The preliminary plat had 3 separate parcels. Is that the 2 legs that, I'm calling them legs, that access the flag lot type leg? Being that we are revising the UDC or considering small edits to the UDC, is that something we can address in the future, that we don't have anything like this in the future? That
Yes, we'll ensure that we no longer make spaghetti bowls.
spaghetti bowls is a good description. Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to make a comment? Question, concern? All right. Hearing none, let's move forward with the vote. We have a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor signify by raising your right hand. That measure passes 5-0. And that will bring us to item number 4 under new business. Excuse me. This is a consideration of possible action. This is a zone change application, zone change 24-27. This is a request by Andrew Allemand, Beacon Land Services, LLC, Texas applicant on behalf of BEGP1, LLC, Texas owner, for approval of a zone change from suburban residential 12, which is SR-12 district, to planned development PD district, creating a planned development of approximately 7.9731 acres of land to identify as the McHard and Adamo, I hope I said that right, maybe Adamo Lane, Adamo? Thank you, sir. Adamo Lane planned development, the general location being 8210 McHard Road in Pearland, Texas. A motion for approval in a second, please.
Motion to approve.
Second.
That brings us to the staff report portion.
Thank you, Chair. Tonight's request is for a zone change from SR12 to PD for a 73-unit build-to-rent attached townhouse-style multifamily residential development on approximately 7.9 acres. The selected base zoning of this PD is multiple family residential, and the future land use map place type is urban living. A joint plan development workshop was held on November 18th, 2024. And as required by the UDC, the applicant's PD workshop was held on November 18th. Items of discussion during the workshop focused on density, parking, design, adjacent zoning, and the applicant's proposed deviations. As of noon today, we have received 2 written comments against the request. However, they were from the same person, so technically 1, but they submitted 2, so we're gonna say 2. Shown on the screen is an aerial view of the property and adjacent zoning. We have single-family estate zoning to the north, suburban residential 12 to the south and east and a little bit of the west, and also Cullen Mixed Use District to the west as well. And additionally, this property is located within the Corridor Overlay District. The future land use map place type for this area is designated as urban living. On the right side of the screen is a screenshot from the urban living place type from the comprehensive plan, noting character and intent along with land use considerations. The proposed PD with the selected base zoning of MF is consistent with the urban living place type. Shown here is an aerial view without the zoning layer. To the north is undeveloped, to the south and east is single-family residential homes, to the west is a boat repair shop and single-family residential homes. The existing single-family residential house was built in 1954, and this property was annexed then into the city of Pearland in 1998, and today the site is not platted. Drone images of the property looking at the site from east and west along McCard Road are shown now. The widening construction of McCard Road was concluded in April of 2023, and the existing home and trees will be removed when and if the property begins construction. And this is a view looking north along Adamo Lane. And shown on the screen now is the applicant's design plan and the proposed deviations. The proposal again is for 73 three-bedroom units at 10 dwelling units per acre with 62% lot coverage, 146 garage parking spaces, 110 surface parking spaces for a total of 256 parking spaces. And again, the selected base zoning of the property is MF. The property will have a clubhouse, swimming pool, sport court, a playscape, a dog park, and detention. The detention is proposed to not meet the required vegetative buffer per the Corridor Overlay District requirements. The applicants have agreed to meeting the UDC for signage, landscaping, fencing, parking, and most area requirements noted in the MF zoning. Shown on the screen is another look at the design plan, focusing more on fencing and ingress and egress. The colors are for purple, a 6-foot masonry fence is proposed. For red is a 6-foot wrought iron fence, and the pink color is a 4-foot wrought iron fence. Shown here is Exhibit F, architectural renderings. The exhibit and the PD document both indicate that 50% of the garage doors will have windows at the top, and garage door handles and hardware are required on all doors. Please note that the building material percentages of brick and stucco are not specifically indicated in the PD language, and therefore the buildings will not be required to look like the images provided if constructed. And this is Exhibit G, the single architectural floor plan. Each townhome unit will have 3 bedrooms, be at ground level entry with a 2-car garage and an average size of 1,583 square feet. And shown on this slide is Exhibit I, the clubhouse renderings. In the PD document, it notes that the building will meet the required 25% transparency requirement per the COD. The exhibit notes a 50% masonry requirement. However, as previously stated, the percentages of material of brick are not included in the PD language. Confirmation is needed on the size due to conflicting sizes noted in the PD requirements and the design plan of this clubhouse. And this is the amenity plan as Exhibit H, and Exhibit J is the amenity renderings on the right side, showing paving and driveways, common open space, building areas, required setbacks, along with the proposed clubhouse, pool, sport court, playground, and dog park. The proposed PD meets criteria 1 and 7 that warrants establishing a PD for the subject site. And the request is in conformance with the comprehensive plan, the thoroughfare plan, and the site has access to water and sewer along McCard Road. The proposed PD meets many of the approval criteria, except for criterion 5, due to the surrounding area primarily being low-density single-family residential lots. Not meeting this criteria has an effect of changing the character of expected uses along McCard Road. If this proposal is approved, then those adjacent properties could be adversely affected, and a variance for the driveway along McCard would be required from the engineering department, thus the reason for number 6 being a may.
I got you. I'm going to pause. I think your finger hit the click share button or something. Yeah, there you go. Continue.
Thank you. All right. Shown here on the screen is 11 items that staff is requesting some additional information on. To help regulate the design of the document, I'm going to run through each of the 11 really quick, and we can discuss further if needed. And they are out of order based on similarities and areas of the requested information. So number 1 is a screenshot from the applicant's PD document. As the numbering hierarchy is somewhat challenging to review and cross-reference, so staff is requesting that some of the numbering be revised. Number 6 is to add a separate paragraph for the small adjustment caveat in the PD document, as it is present, but it is a little bit difficult to locate, so making it its own separate document. And then number 10 is to add details on the sidewalk materials in section C, as it is not currently noted. And below number 10 is the screenshot from the PD document that has the sidewalk regulations. Number 2 is to add clarifying language regarding the requested unit count and density reference in the design plan exhibit. Number 3 talks about stronger language for the clubhouse, as previously discussed before, to confirm that the design will look like the images that are shown in the exhibits, and confirming the clubhouse square footage as the screenshots show. In the PD document, we have 4,000 square feet, but on the design plan, we have 2,100 square feet. Number 4 is to add language that the playscape will be of commercial grade, a screenshot of the languages provided in the text. Number 5 is having consistent language related to the fencing material, as shown in the screenshot from the dog park section of the PD document and the design plan noting the fencing. And then number 11 is requesting the fencing color be changed to a different color or remove the pink color, because the color pink with the 4-foot wrought iron fence is also shown adjacent to the garage and the front doors of the townhomes. So just making sure that that's very clear when others are reviewing this in the future. Finally, number 7 and number 8, it is not recommended that all 73 units have identical floor plans. Additionally, adding building material percentages to confirm that the product shown in the images in the exhibit is what is actually built. And shown on the screen now are 3 out of the 6 staff recommendations. Number 1 is similar to what was just previously mentioned regarding the floor plans and avoiding the creation of a monotonous development. Number 2 is recommending towing language be added to the PD document, as during discussions with staff, a towing contract was mentioned in length, and staff would like to see that added to the document. And number 3 mentions adding language if the detention is to be wet or dry, and if it is wet, to add in the PD document that there be a water feature. And the remaining conditions, number 4, we'd like to see the location of the AC units, generators, and equipment on the design plan to see where they're going to be placed. And number 5, the applicant has identified the goal is compliance with the UDC for plantings along the southern property line. However, if approved, it's recommended that the applicants go above and beyond what the UDC is requiring, due to the fact that there is a single-family residence to the south. And then finally, providing some screening along the western portion of the detention is recommended. Here are all 6 of staff recommendations on one slide. To conclude, the applicant is requesting a plan development with a base zoning of multiple family residential 473 unit townhome style multifamily development. The land use follows the comprehensive plan, but due to McCard Road completing construction just 2 years ago, the area has not seen the change in the land use or density that has the potential to change the character of the area. Support from staff regarding the zone change to a plan development could be achieved if the applicant considers the recommendations as discussed previously. However, if the items mentioned are not addressed, support for the request cannot be given. And that concludes staff report. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that very comprehensive report. Thank you. That brings us to the applicant. Is the applicant here, and does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Mr. Chairman.
If you'll kindly state your name and address for the record.
Excuse me, my name's Andrew Allemand from Beacon Land Services, 1304 Langham Creek, number 410, Houston, Texas. And I have some slides. Can I put them in the computer here, or? Let's see. Someone has to log into the computer to unfreeze it. But while that's happening, I will say that we're completely okay with all of those recommendations. So if the commission does choose to recommend approval, then we're perfectly fine with modifying these or modifying our plan before City Council. And you can obviously make that a condition when you approve. Sorry about that. Thank you. I think staff did an excellent job of running through our presentation and what we plan to do. So we don't have a lot of extra stuff. Let's see. Uh-oh. There we go. I think that could be good. That should be fine. And again, like staff's been great to work with. Obviously, this is a pretty sensitive issue. We'll go over some of the items that staff discussed and kind of why we came onto the property. Should be presentation. All right, perfect. All right. Again, staff did a great job of identifying where the property is, and obviously giving you the drone views, some pictures of the survey. Obviously gives you a really good idea about what we're talking about. One of the biggest things that I wanted to hit on is that out of the workshop, we made some pretty major changes. The City Council, Planning Commission, the public gave us a lot of really great feedback, and that's kind of the intent of that workshop, is to kind of see where everybody's at and then make adjustments accordingly. So we still have, of course, the same acreage, but we reduced the density by quite a bit. We're still proposing a market rate complex, and we believe it's the highest and best use for the land, given the future designation, future land use plan designation, and kind of what the city envisions for this property. And, obviously when you're the first into an area, this is the kind of first, medium to high density development on the south side of McCard. You need to do something a little bit different. This isn't the development across the street that's 3 stories, very dense. This is a much different type of program. We're talking about 2-story, ground level entry, more townhome than apartments. We happen to be using the multifamily designation because that's the only real way we can get this rental complex together, but for the look and feel of it, it's going to look like and feel like a townhome complex. And one of the biggest things that we did when we looked at how to redesign the project was we gave more buffering to the neighbors around us, especially to the south. If you look at, if you remember the previous plan, all of those dwelling units were kind of stuck on the bottom of the property. We were still doing the vegetative buffers, we were still doing everything we needed to do, but it didn't feel right to have those homes there. So what we did is we flip-flopped the parking, and now the residents to the south have a pretty big buffer. I mean, over 80 feet between their property line and where the majority of the residences are going to be on the south. We did the same thing to the north. Again, it's the boat repair shop, but it still has a residential zoning. So we wanted to do that same kind of buffering standard for the properties along the north side as well. We added a bunch of amenities. Staff mentioned the dog park, but we re-upped or we redid the sidewalk connectivity. If you look at the plan, you can see that green space in between the two major blocks. That's all open and unencumbered walkway. So it's like a green space. People could go into their backyard and kind of have that open area to play and walk around. And then we also obviously, beefed up the landscaping, not just to meet the requirements, but as Steph mentioned, our plan was to do more than was required along the south, and we'll definitely put that in our language to confirm that that's what we're doing. And then something that I know was a little bit of an issue during the public hearing or during the workshop was the second point of ingress and egress on Adamo. But just to clarify, that's emergency access only. That's not going to be a daily, trip issue. All of the traffic is going to be exiting onto McCard. The Adamo one is just for emergencies only. So again, staff went over most of this with y'all, the density, kind of what the elevations look like, the plan itself. So we don't really need to go over that in any great length. But this table here shows you that we're really not asking for a lot of divergence from the code. But I will point out that the coverage is something that we're obviously sensitive to, like we're asking for more coverage than would otherwise be allowed. And the reason that's important for us is because we are not going up, we're going out. We're not doing a tall product, we're doing just a 2-story product. And to keep the density low and to keep the units where they're at, we need to cover a little bit more of the site. So that's the trade-off. To keep that kind of like a lower density, single family, townhome type feel, we'd rather spread out a little bit as opposed to trying to do something 3 or 4 stories anywhere on the property. So we feel that's like the best mix, the best way to accommodate the previous residential nature and what the city's looking for in terms of the use long term. But other than that, you can see our densities much reduced. I think we were at like 12.9 dwelling units per acre before, almost 13, and now we're below 10. So a pretty drastic reduction in the density. So that's it. So if y'all have any questions, just let me know. I'm here as the applicant. We also have the owner, developer, and then the architect as well. No matter what kind of question, we should have someone here to help you.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the applicant presentation. All right.
Yes, sir.
That brings us into the next item in our script here. It is persons wishing to speak for or against. And before anybody jumps up there, I have 6 speaker cards, and we should call on those first, and then we'll take anyone else wishing to speak can go up after that. The first one is Andrew Allemand. I'm assuming you've already done that, so we'll set that aside. We're down to 5. And that is another one also with the developer portion, Ali Hassan. And again, if you would please state if I could explain this real quick. Please state your name and address when you get up there as you open. You've got 3 minutes. I should also ask that, well, I forgot. I hate when that happens. I had a point. I'll make it whenever I remember. Oh, we're not allowed to dialogue. So if you will go up there and you say, hey, are y'all considering drainage? We can't answer that. We will make notes and answer it during our discussion period. So please continue.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ali Hassan. Address is 4538 Mayfair Street, Bel Air, Texas, 77401. And I am an owner, developer of this community, future developer of this community. My company, Core3 Capital / BEGP1, we own and operate close to 1,000 units, most of them in the city of Houston. And we focus on institutionally managed quality residents, and we bring them to neighborhoods like this one, where housing is a major need. So want to just address a few points really quickly, and we'll leave it out to you guys. We're asking for your approval because we feel this is one of those cases where the business need for the project perfectly aligns with the city's needs of housing. So quickly, just to dive in, one of the comments that I'm sure a couple of comments received by a single person against the project is likely the same neighbor that told me that they would rather see a cow pasture here. The only problem is the future land use here doesn't envision a cow pasture. So we're trying to put housing that sits exactly aligned with what the city's plan is. We are willing to compromise. As Andrew mentioned, anything that the staff recommends, we are willing to accept. We went down from 101 units to, again, repeat that, down to 73 some units. So it makes economic sense. The heirs of the resident, past resident, are also residents of Pearland that want this project done. They've worked with us on the project all this time. We've been at this for a while, and we would love to make it happen so that the supply of housing, which is in serious imbalance here, and these are a couple of points I want to mention and then quickly conclude. It's a growing city. Average rent in Pearland is $2,300. The target residents for us in our community are people who run this city: firemen, teachers, public servants, and many of the following. So taking teachers as an example, an average salary of a teacher is about $58,000 annual salary. In order to be considered rent burdened, not to be rent burdened, the rent you must pay should be less than 30% of your salary. That means that an average salary of a teacher can only afford about a rent of $1,450. With an average rent of $2,300, the delta is about $850. So either we increase teacher salaries or we build more housing that creates supply that allows teachers and firemen and cops and people of the like who make about the same salary to be able to afford that. So we are glad that the future land use plan is very clear on the need for that. We are perfectly aligned with it, and we'd love to bring this to life. And we ask for your support. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. That brings us to Benito Valadez. Again, name and address for the record, please. Thank you.
Yes. Good evening. Benito Valadez, address 1738 Adamo Lane. Properties just south of this property. There's a residence on 5 acres. Now, I'll make it clear, I'm not opposed to development in the city of Pearland. Obviously, with growth comes change. It's not going to be like the good old days, and we have to accept that. And I do accept that, and I am for a development of some sort because it's not going to stay a cow pasture land. I'm very clear. Now, being a developer myself, being in the real estate industry as a general contractor and as a developer, there's a lot of responsibility that bear on the city's shoulders, on the city leaders' shoulders, in order to accurately or more correctly do a development that's going to benefit the city, not so much the neighbors, but the city as a whole. And not in a 1-year time period, but in 5 years and 10 years. Now, this property here, it's a strictly rental. The townhome, let's not be fooled. This townhome, this is a multifamily. This is a glorified apartment complex. This is what it is. And so this is strictly rental. I think would have an adverse effect to the city in 10 years, in 15 years, in 20 years. What I've seen, and I don't know whether this is the case, on stuff like this, they'll get this property leased up 90%, put it on the market, a private equity group come scoop it up somewhere out of state, and it'll be a big corporate firm that owns it. They won't have no, Pearland value to it. Now, a smaller residential lots, I know right now with the zoning it has, I think it's like 12,000. Now we can go with the smaller lot where the individual houses where someone can actually have ownership and pride of what they own. I'm all for. But something, this style, this projection, this proposal, I'm very, very, very against. And I understand I am south. I'm probably one most affected by it because I'm directly on the property line of this development. I think there's a lot of avenues that they still have to, a lot of hurdles. One, drainage is going to be a big hurdle for them. I know drainage capacity, how much water to hold. The elevation of the land is low. We are prone to flooding. We have flooded during Hurricane Harvey. The TI, the traffic TIA, the traffic impact analysis, will give us a little bit of insight of what it's going to be like exiting and getting in off of McCard Road. There won't be a median cut. I don't think, is McCard Road a TxDOT road? I believe it is a TxDOT road. I think TxDOT will not issue another median cut so close to Adamo Lane. So what's going to happen there is going to be a traffic jam. So there's a lot of stuff for the city to consider. I leave it on y'all's shoulders as y'all city leaders that represent us as citizens, and I hope you guys make a wise decision. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. That brings us to Mr. Robert Garner.
Hello, Council. My name is Robert Garner, 8126 McCard. I'm going to reiterate a lot of the things that Benito just spoke about. One of the things is drainage problems of putting a facility like this in. I'm directly east of the proposed development. Adamo Lane, 2 cars cannot pass on that. It's too narrow for that. We've had problems in the past with drainage before McCard was expanded. When McCard got expanded, then they put some retention ponds on the north side, but it still hasn't created the flow that's needed for the homes that are back on Adamo. That's one problem. Just like Benito said, we're willing and happy to have some development come in, but we don't want an apartment complex, and that's basically what this is. You can look at it as glorified townhomes, but it's nothing more than an apartment complex. The math doesn't math. They've got 74 units. You've got 7.74 acres. You got a clubhouse. You got a swimming pool. You got all of these different things, but it doesn't pan out the way that their plat says that it's going to be. We have an apartment complex that's on the corner of McCard and Cullen. Today, when I called, there are still vacancies there. When that was put in with the city council, there was supposed to be retail that was put in. They put in a retail building, and there's 1 occupant in there right now. That was supposed to be developed first, and then the apartment complex was supposed to go in second. Again, I know progress is inevitable. We would love to see this developed into single-family homes. I think that that would be a prime location for this. There are parcels on Cullen between Broadway and McCard up for sale right now that would be a perfect place for this development to go in. McCard is not the place. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And that brings us to Mr. Jim Mooney. I hope I got the first name right.
Good evening, Commissioners. Name is Jim Mooney, 915 Postwood Lane. I've lived in that area for 50, 60 years, something like that. And I understand people that don't want the townhomes there. And it really is not going to affect me one way or the other. But I sure don't want to see a liquor store put in there, or another all-night stop and rob, whatever you want to call it. You may not be for what's proposed, but it sure beats those alternatives.
Thank you for those comments. And that brings us to Mr. John, I hope I say this right, Leishol.
My name is John Lasaw. I live at 3103 Nottingham Street in Pearland, 77581. I'm here to speak in favor of the development. My parents bought that land in 1954, and they built a house on that land in 1959. So everybody else that lives around there came way after my parents did. My mother lived on that land until 2023 at the age of 96.75 years, and when she passed away. So the land went to 3 children. So we put it up for sale, and we have a developer that wants to build townhouses, which I think is a great idea, because even in the report from the city, it states that Pearland does not have a diversified housing stock. More than 92% of housing in Pearland is either single family or large apartment complexes. These are townhouses. They're 1,600 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. Yes, they are for rent. So, me speaking on my experience, when my wife and I got married in 1976, there was only 2 apartment complexes in Pearland, and we couldn't get into them. So we almost had to live with our parents. But one vacancy came up, and we were able to get into it. And so it's the same thing. We need affordable, nice places for young people, single or married, that want to live in a townhouse so they don't have to mow lawns, do maintenance, home repairs, because they're young people. They can't afford to buy a new home. Homes are just outrageously expensive nowadays. Also, we have older people, me included, that want to downsize. So we want to sell the house that we've lived in for 35 years and let somebody else take it over and live in something where we don't have to mow yards. We don't have to paint the outside. We don't have to maintain it. So this property meets a lot of this development meets a lot of the requirements set forth by P&Z, and I would ask that it be approved so that people that especially work on the west side of town will have someplace close by. McCard was put in as a 4-lane road originally. In 1959, it was a shell road with oil on it. It then got blacktopped, and it stayed that way for years. And then when the announcement came out that McCard was going to come through, the developers and real estate people bothered my mother so much with calls wanting to buy her land because they knew that area was changing. Change is good. I've been here since 1959. You wouldn't believe the changes that I've seen in this city, all for good. Because if you don't change, what happens? You go stagnant and you die. So thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. We have one more green card, and then we'll ask for any further input. Michael V. Jenkins.
Good evening. My name is Michael Jenkins. I live at 1841 Adamo. I built my home on 5 acres in 2008, retired law enforcement. And the problem with this large project is that Adamo is a dead-end street. So therefore, the residents have one way out. And when we pass each other on Adamo, we have to pull to one side of the road and let another car pass and so forth. Also, the drainage is very poor, and with this new project that is coming, I'm sure that the drainage will be worse. So I just would like City Council to take that under consideration. Thank you very much.
Sure. All right, so that's it for the green cards thus far. Is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against that perhaps didn't fill? Please make your way to the podium. Absolutely. Mr. Jenkins, just so you know, this is the Planning and Zoning Commission, not the City Council. No, no, no. You'll get a chance after this proceeding. Thank you, sir.
My name is Kevin Chima, and I own the boat repair shop at 8302 McCard Road. My wife and I own it, sorry. And my biggest concern is the access to McCard Road from this proposed project. The people that are coming out of it or going into it can only go one direction. There is no median cut. They cannot go west if they want to come out of there. And people going west cannot enter the project. So I just don't see how, I see a huge bottleneck there as far as emergency vehicles, if there's an emergency, fire and rescue, police, that type of thing. The only other thing I'd like to add is, of course, boat motors are not quiet. They are loud, so I'm worried about noise variance for my business that I have there. Just to ask that council take that into consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And I already see you're making your way to give the green card to the appropriate persons. Thank you, ma'am. Name and address for the record, if you kindly do so.
Danielle Chima. I live at 1006 Tennyson Drive, 77584, but I do own the business of Kevin's Boat and Motor on 8302 McCard Road, right next to the property that is proposed to be changed. I am opposed to this change. Part of the reason I'm opposed is, one, I think that there are too many homes or townhomes wanting to go in, especially for rental in this area. This has never been a rental area, and all the homes around the area are larger with much more real estate to them, and I think it would not suit the area for that. I'm also concerned about egress and ingress of the McCard Road crossing, as Kevin mentioned. I am also concerned about crime once this gets brought in here. We already have an issue with having the gas station on the corner of McCard and Cullen, and we also have some issues with having the townhomes that are already previously there. And I know this will bring in more crime to the city, and we of course don't want that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for those comments. All right, is there anyone else wishing to speak for or against this item? Anyone else? Yes, sir. If you'll make your way to the podium, and once you're done, if you will fill out one of those green cards. And name and address for the record, please, sir.
Yes, I'm Kenneth Jost, 1813 Adamo Lane, Pearland. Just against it, I moved out there because there were few people and few cars on the road, and I'm afraid this will change it. So I'm against it.
Thank you for that. And this gentleman here.
Good afternoon. My name is Alex Serrano. I live on 1710 Max Road, right down the street from this development. I'm opposed to this this possible development. I own property. I have for a few years. I love mowing the grass. I love repairing my home. But more importantly, I think the issue here is that, you know, I'm sorry, I can't remember your name, sir, but you mentioned in the last meeting that you know, we're calling this townhomes, but you said you can paint. No, I'm quoting you wrong. But you said you can paint a pig blue, but it's still a pig, right? These are apartment complexes, right? And you have to, you know, you have a lot of traffic you got to deal with. On my way home today from work, I noticed there was an accident on McCard, right there on 518, and it was backed up all the way. And these are issues that are already apparent, and if you're adding things like this, you're gonna develop more issues with the traffic. And I just don't think it's a good idea. I'm opposed to it, and thanks for your time.
Thank you for those comments. If y'all will, yeah, there we go. Anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Anyone else wishing to speak for or against? Seeing no movement, we'll move forward then into the agenda. This brings us now to the staff commission applicant discussion. Commissioners?
Katya, you had mentioned there were 6 recommendations that you'd have, and if they did not follow any of or all 6 of those recommendations, the staff would not be able to approve this. Therefore, am I correct on that assumption?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, then what I'd like to do is I'd like to approve a motion to table this and allow the applicant to make the changes that Katya, that the staff had recommended. Once the changes had been made through their engineering, through their development, then let us take another look at it.
All right, we have a motion to table. And is table the correct word, or are we supposed to say postpone, actually?
In this particular instance, if I understand the intent correctly, it would be a motion to postpone, bringing it back. And traditionally, you're waiting for a condition or you're giving a date. And you've given the condition to update the plan to show its incorporation of staff's things. Did you want to give a date along with that, Mr. Eccles? Commissioner Eccles?
Yes, 30 days.
Okay, so it'll be the first meeting in
May.
Now, if we get a second to that, are we allowed to continue discussion then to get everything on the table, or?
If you have a second, at that point it is non-debatable. I want to double check my chart. I think it's non-debatable at that point, at which case you would not have any additional discussion.
Can we delay that?
Therefore, I believe some other commissioners have some questions. Let me delay this motion and let their questions be, because we may want to put some more criteria into the motion. So
Okay, so at this time you're withdrawing your motion, and you may make it again very soon.
that you are correct.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we've got a lot of hills to climb on this thing. One of the statements was made that this meets the criteria for, or the, what the city wants. Well, it doesn't. First off, you're asking for a zone change. That's a big hill to climb right there, as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't meet it because of it doesn't meet the zoning. You've got residents that have legitimate concerns out there. You've got a townhome / rentals across the road that are not that have vacancy in them. I just don't see. I am not in favor of adding an apartment. I don't care to rob Henry here, but you can paint. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. And I'm dead set against it. I'll be a no until the cows come home. So.
I have a question for the city. Is there any future plan to widen that road? Adamo Lane?
Not right now. It is not in our CIP project. Not for the road widening, not for drainage too. Just maintenance of the drainage system is what we do.
But for the emergency fire apparatus, they would have to widen the roadway to the edge of the property. Is my understanding correct?
That needs to be done because 20-foot minimum wide. I think 24-foot width is required. Most of our asphalt roads are 20 foot. Even if we make 20 foot, that would be a good idea for fire apparatus movement.
So it won't be the entire roadway, but it will be for the entirety of the roadway adjacent to the proposed development.
Okay, and that was going to be my question. So this development would have to improve or set to improve at least their half of Adamo per their development code and bring it up to standard?
That's correct.
Okay. And would there be any entertainment by the city for a median cut of any kind on McCard to facilitate better egress and ingress?
Based on what I can see here, there's no way that a median cut will be approved because it's too close to the other driveways. And we have minimum requirement between the driveway and median opening too. So again, this is the city roadway, it is not the text dot.
Thanks, sir.
You said it is the city roadway, not text dot here at this point?
Yeah, this is text dot. This is city roadway. Text dot funded to build the roadway 80-20 match, but this is our roadway.
As opposed to in Shadow Creek, that McHard, which turns into Shadow Creek Parkway,
Correct.
is more of a text dot road.
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you for the clarification. I do have a couple of questions. It can be a thumb up or a thumb down. The detention pond plan, it shows to be wet. Is it wet or dry?
It's a pump detention, so it will be wet most of the time.
Okay.
We're not opposed to amenitizing or adding the fountain that was mentioned.
That would be a big thing for me, just an amenitized. I'd rather have that. I know historically we've, and I say we, this is the Planning and Zoning Commission. I've heard it more from council that there's an anti-garage door, and I get what this is. It's a build to rent style community. We call them in the development community. A lot of you've heard of this horizontal multifamily, right? So instead of going vertical and going 3 and 4 stories, which would really be obtrusive is not the right word, but you'd be overlooking someone's parcel, right? And so this is 2-story. You've backed them away. I appreciate that very much that you took that effort and put them away from the boundary line for the southern property owner. But I do know other ones that have come in, and especially even the one we passed tonight, the final plat for the Pearland Town Center. One of the proposed uses prior to the one that passed was heavily garage door looking. I think your architect did a good job. It is a lot of garage doors, but there's some articulation surrounding, popping out, giving you that at least somewhere else to focus your eyes on. Simply here. There's a lot of articulation in that building, the front facade, rather than just a flat and all you notice is the garage door. So good job on the architecture. I don't know how city council is going to feel about it, but I know that's been a stickler for them in the past. Mr. Garner, one of the citizens that commented, made a point that across the street is multifamily without the retail. Absolutely correct. I remember that coming in. I think I was the one that stated that. It's one of those things that you get when you get promised that we're going to phase this stuff in. Multifamily is the first one to come in, and then the rest of it doesn't happen. I don't think this is the case. You all have been very forthcoming and said, here's what we want to do. And I don't think you're going to cut out a corner now and try to put retail. That doesn't make sense. The mention was made during staff presentation, and I know the applicant made the same comment, that this is in our future land use plan. Every city has pretty much a comprehensive plan itself. Within that comprehensive plan, and that's a plan where everything kind of comes together for the city, and it gives guidance to developers, to this, to that. The Parks Department puts their plan in, the transportation plan is put in, all these things are put in. One of those items is a future land use plan. The future land use plan says it's not really parcel by parcel, but it gives a general idea. This is where we feel that the area is going. Is that a fair assessment? 10,000 foot approach rather than a molecular approach. This one was mixed use, if I'm not mistaken, or I'm sorry, that was next door that we saw a couple of weeks ago. This is urban development, and we discussed what that was. Is it a fair assessment to say this fits in that?
That's correct. Apartments are noted under urban living as the primary land uses.
So I think the applicant did a fair job in trying to at least take that into consideration. However, now comes the conflict that the rest of the area is large lot development, and so therein lies our conflict. So I think some persons here, some persons at City Council feel like that's too much of a conflict. I'm torn on this one. I see the good and the bad both, the pros and the cons. My biggest heartache is the access. I don't know if you couldn't perhaps reorient, and I know you want to face a major boulevard, but is there, you know, for the access itself and the issue that the gentleman and I believe a couple of others brought up that owns the boat repair. I believe he mentioned, you know, going across the street, you're going to have to make U-turns at the Esplanade opening to the west, and or Adamo Lane making a U-turn to go west. So there is going to be some challenges from an access standpoint, and I sure would like to see resolution to those. I'm going to agree with my fellow commissioner that perhaps postponing this would give the applicant a chance to address some of these things we discussed tonight. I also think you're facing some headwinds as well already. There's two commissioners that aren't here that would, you know, perhaps vote a certain way. Can't speak for those, but maybe postponing is the right path for us. So I'll shut up now.
If I may quickly address the.
I'll see if they'll let you.
Yeah. Can we speak for a second?
Just quickly, because I think we're ready to postpone.
Just regarding the ingress and egress, we have communities that we have done this before in which the cut is passed, and so you can only head one way getting out, and so posting a sign within the property, and we can include that as part of our application.
We'll look at that during the break period. We'll go over that, do some metrics, some engineering analysis.
I think he said that he's going to do that. If you postpone it, when they come back, they'll address that issue.
Correct.
Fair, thank you.
Did you want to make any comment? Because I don't want to cut you off. Trey, you okay as well? Okay, then therefore, now I will bring the motion to postpone for 30 days and allow the applicant to address the questions that the commission has brought up, as well as the 6 staff recommendations, the 24-27 zone change.
And I heard you say 30 days, and I think your intent is to the first meeting in May. Is that correct?
Meeting in May.
So if it's 32 days, we're okay.
Yes.
If it's 28 days, we're okay.
First meeting in May.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your clarification.
I'll gladly second that. So, with a motion and a second for a postponement, there's no further discussion. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, same sign. Measure passes. The postponement passes 4-1. So there will not be a vote on the item itself. Just for clarification, does staff notify the abutters map again, or is that just is now the notice that we're giving?
We can notify again if you would like us to.
I just want to do what state law says.
The public hearing component of this issue has been concluded, unless you wanted to have an additional public hearing to make sure that the public has an opportunity to review the proposed changes, which we anticipate reflecting staff's recommendations. So I think it would be at your discretion. I tend to think that transparency is best. If you took public comments, you should take public comments again, because there'll be a new product, there'll be a new staff report. And maybe some minds will be changed. Maybe not, I don't know, but at least they have that opportunity. I'm for that. So we will re-notify people within the 200-foot abutter for that next meeting.
If that time frame still allows that, I think transparency is 100% best. And then, so that concludes this portion. We are now going to move from new business to discussion items. First is the city council update. If we want to take a couple of seconds to allow the citizens to go see a basketball game. I hear there's one.
So while they're working on filing out of here, just quickly, at the March 24th City Council meeting, there was one conditional use permit extension, one new CUP, and one zone change case. The CUP extension was for that wireless cell tower that's on South Main. They are working through their permitting process, but they just needed a little bit of additional time since they worked through TxDOT with the access and continued access for that property. The new conditional use permit was for Quick Quack at 1705 Broadway. The end recommendation followed the conditions set forth by the P&Z and squeaked by with approval at a 4-3 approval. So they'll go under design and get their final considerations in. Following that, we had the zone change for 2849 Cullen. This was the zone change from general business to general commercial. That was the second round. That ended up failing with a 0-6 vote, and we anticipate that they will go forward with a plan development workshop in order to get a full plan development. So we'll see this another few times as it works back through the process. On other news, there was a road name change for Marketplace Boulevard, south of Shadow Creek to the hospital, and to HCA Healthcare Boulevard. Both of those were renamed to either Medical Center Drive or to David Wagner Way in honor of Mr. Wagner, who was with HCA Hospital. So that's the roundup.
Fantastic, thank you. That brings us then to the, I think it's the last item, which is City Council and P&Z Joint Workshop, April 14th, and I believe, as we stated last meeting, that's for the UDC, and Ms. Jennifer has already sent us an email with that information and 40-something or 50-something pages worth of reading. So
I was going to say, y'all do have homework, so make sure you do it.
Let's do our homework. The next P&Z meeting of April 21st, does anybody know that they cannot attend the 14th and the 21st? If not, let's conclude the meeting at 7:54 p.m. Thank you all.